if this statement is true or false. Here's number one. True or false?
Let's go.
Will Rogers will throw more interceptions this season than he did in 2022. True or false?
Well, they say you should take, if you're going to do true and false, you should either go all true or all false. You got a 50-50 chance. So everything's going to be false. No. More interceptions this year than he did last year. He threw 9 last year. Is that correct?
I believe the number's 8, but I could be wrong.
I mean, and that's on how many attempts, right? Close to 600. I mean, he's going to cut that number down by at least 200 this year, maybe 250. And he's a good manager of the football. He doesn't throw a lot of picks. I'll say true. He throws fewer interceptions this year.
I think he's going to be asked to do more. The throws won't be as safe, but I'm with you. I think that 8 or fewer is the right number. So I think he will throw fewer as well. To Oxford, Jackson Dart threw 11, if I remember correctly when I made this, interceptions a year ago. True or false, he throws fewer interceptions this year than he did last year.
You said 11 was the number?
11 was the number.
Yeah, I said yesterday, I was like, Dart isn't like Corral. Corral had those 2 games where he threw 6 and 5, and he was such a gunslinger. You could just see that. Dart is a little bit more controlled than him. I say true, but it's only going to be 1 less. He's going to throw 10.
Yeah, if you believe everything that came out of spring, which spring is only worth what you think it's worth, which isn't much, but apparently, even in practice, he has taken much better care of the football. And 3 of those 11 came in the bowl game when he was just kind of slinging it in the second half. 2 of them came on just the game is over, I'm badly hurt, I'm just throwing the football. But if he takes better care of the ball like everybody says that he will, then under 11 seems like a pretty safe bet. So we shall see. Not splitting reps, although he only really did that for 1 game last year. But what difference really does that make? Number 3, Mississippi. True or false? Mississippi State will only win one of these games. Only win one of these games. At South Carolina, at Arkansas, at Auburn, at Texas A&M.
False. I think they'll split. They're 2-2 in this.
If you had to guess, what would the 2 be?
Auburn. And I'm torn between South Carolina and Arkansas. I think they will lose to A&M. So you're gonna make me pick. I would say Arkansas.
Gosh, Mississippi State's schedule is so interesting because their 4 road games are all teams that are like that you would consider like a toss-up game. Yeah.
And in reality, I think State's going to be 2-3. I mean, based on what I'm predicting here, right? I think they're going to be 2-3 at the end of September. But then I have them going 6-1 the rest of the way.
That game in College Station in early November, that's an interesting one. That's a really interesting
It's huge.
Game.
The game of the season is at Columbia. That if they win that game, they got a great chance to win 9 games. If they lose it, it's going to be they're going to have to play really well to get to 8.
So Haddad says false. They'll win 2 of their 4 road games, which are South Carolina, Arkansas, Auburn, and A&M. Ole Miss doesn't have 4 road games like this. 2 of them are in Tuscaloosa and Athens, so I picked a couple of different ones. True or false? Ole Miss will only win 1 of these games. Arkansas, A&M, at Mississippi State, at Auburn.
Ooh. Only win 1?
Only win 1. True or false?
Let me go through my head here. I have them losing to Georgia, Alabama, and LSU. Right now, I would pick State to win the Egg Bowl. Yeah, they'll win more than 1.
Getting Arkansas at home, I think, is a big schedule break for them this season, considering they got Georgia from the East. So getting that crazy game and getting A&M at home also is a nice break. All right. Number 5, I believe. Mississippi State or Ole Miss. So either one will beat either LSU or Alabama this season. True or false?
I would say false. I would say both teams lose both games.
You think they're going 0-2?
Yeah.
I think true. I think LSU is going to come to Mississippi and lose one of those two games. I don't think it's going to be Alabama, although there are so many questions about Alabama, and we've had that conversation in the past, and they almost always get answered. But how many times can you do it without there being some kind of, not slip, but truth behind it? But yeah, I think LSU is going to come on the road to Mississippi and lose one of those two games. I think.
Okay.
Next. We got to remember, new offense.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart throws for more yards than Will Rogers, who threw, what was it, about 1,000 yards more than Dart last year, I think?
Yeah.
But this year,
well, now I need to know
system,
what Jackson Dart
he threw for just under 3,000. It was like 2,975, I think.
Okay. So I feel like that's going to be a horse race. That's going to be a really tight one. Because I would be surprised if either of them cracked 3,000. So I will say true, but I will also say the difference will be less than 200 yards.
Okay.
You could see like 2,900 and 2,700.
Oh, I want to make a note to save this, actually, and come back to visit that, because I would love to know what we thought now, because we have yet to see the offense yet. The spring game doesn't count. We don't know what kind of run-pass discrepancy we're going to see from Mississippi State yet. You would think it's going to be more balanced. Probably it's going to be more balanced.
And there's going to be games, Leach was going to throw no matter what, right?
Right.
There's going to be some games where if the running game's there, State might only throw it 15 times if they're able to run the football effectively, and they'll run it 45, 50 times. Barbay is not going to just force the pass because he likes to pass.
Right.
He'll stick with what works. There were games last year where Mississippi State could have run the ball 45, 50 times, but Mike Leach is never going to do that. That will happen for State this year. They'll have a game where the running game's just clicking, and they'll go from there.
Dwayne says the only way that Will throws less is the coach. That's kind of the point, though, right?
That's the point. I mean, he's going to throw a lot less passes.
We get another one that says Mississippi State always seems to have Texas A&M's number. That's
true.
Division rivalry, put that in quotes, because you know what I mean. They're in the same division.
Yeah.
Has been good to State.
It has, and they've played well, but it's July 6th. I know Texas A&M is more talented, and it's on the road. I'm going to take A&M today. I reserve the right to come back that week in November and change my mind.
Somebody says State will win all four of those games, all four of their road games, and Ole Miss is going to lose all four of those toss-up games we gave.
Hey, we love the enthusiasm.
Oh, boy. Neither of us think they're going to. If Ole Miss did lose all four of those games, that $9 million won't be going very far. Now,
well, if they lose all four of those games, they're not going to a bowl because, like I said, they're going to lose to Georgia, Alabama, LSU. That's 5-7 best case scenario.
More yards than Rogers. Okay.
Yeah.
True or false? Both teams will enter the Egg Bowl with identical records.
Ooh. I have State. Yes, true.
So 7-4, 7-4 for each of them going into the Egg Bowl.
Mm-hmm. That's what I have, yes, as we sit here today.
Neither team would be ranked, right? I don't think so.
It depends on who they've beaten.
Yeah.
I mean, State last year State, not last year, but 2 years ago was in the college football playoff poll at 7-4 going into the Egg Bowl. Obviously, Ole Miss was ranked because they were 9-2, but
here's one. Or the next one, I should say. Ole Miss will have, under Pete Golding, a top half of the SEC ranked defense, not in conference play, all season long, in 2023. So 7th in the SEC or better in 2023.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say false to that one. I don't know that the talent is there yet. He's going to get there. The way they're recruiting, they got some good young players, but they have not done it, in my opinion. The guys they brought in on the defensive line, especially, they just don't strike me as huge difference makers for Ole Miss. So no, I will say false to that.
There's a P word, potential. I don't think they'll have a top half defense. There's a potential there. If Johnson can stay healthy, between Josh Harris and Ukwu, they've added pieces up front. Monty Montgomery's a veteran linebacker. They've got a lot of guys that have the potential to be better than certainly better than they were last year. Potential, though, is the key word. We'll have to see it to believe it first, I think.
It feels like it's feast or famine, right? It feels like they're either going to be a lot better or a lot worse. Yeah. I don't know that they'll just stay where they were.
I do think they upgraded at coordinator, and that may not show.
Well, for sure.
That may not show majorly in year one. It's just when you go from a guy that's never done it before to a guy that's done it for Nick Saban for 5 years plus more at UTSA, then it's just a little bit different. But anyway.
Agreed.
All right. True or false, the SEC championship will be, yet again, Alabama and Georgia.
False. It will be LSU and Georgia again. Second straight year.
I think you're right. I'm not sold on anybody in the West, though. I'm not sold on anybody.
No, you shouldn't be. LSU has got the best quarterback in the West. Well, that's not true. I think KJ Jefferson's the best quarterback in the West. LSU has the best overall team, but Alabama has the highest ceiling. But, I mean, you can't look at Alabama right this second and go, yeah, for sure, when you don't know who's starting for them at quarterback.
True or false? Alabama will lose 2 regular season games or more.
So I said on yesterday's show, I think that Tennessee loses to Alabama. So if I say yes to this, I'm saying that Alabama I think they're going to lose to LSU, and then I've got to pick an upset, right? Their other East team is Kentucky, so that's not it. And then I'm also I'm saying that LSU could lose 2 games because I think they're going to lose to Florida State. But then they would either be undefeated or they would lose to somebody else in the West, which is possible. So there's an 11-1 Alabama team that doesn't make the SEC championship game. That's a bitter pill to swallow. But I think that's where they are. Yes, true.
I think it's true also. I think Alabama's going to go 10-2. I don't know where that other loss is coming.
Oh, no, I'm sorry then. False.
You think they're going to go
11-1?
Okay.
Yeah, but they're not going to win the West.
I think true. We got 1 minute solid, so we'll do this one quickly. True or false? And we got more after this. True or false? Georgia will lose a regular season game.
No chance. False. I mean, if they do, it's a huge. They're going to be not only a favorite, they're going to be like a 2-touchdown favorite over almost everybody they play. I don't see. I mean, look at their schedule and tell me who they're going to be. I mean, other than Tennessee, where are they not favored by 13, 14 points?
Maybe Auburn. No. If Auburn gets off to a hot start and looks good, it may be under double digits anyway, but they will be the favorite, a multi-score favorite.
Yeah. Florida, South Carolina, they're going to be 10, 12, 13-point favorites in those games.
The easiest schedule in the SEC belongs to the best team. Back to some true or false SEC style now. We're turning the page a little bit. True or false? Vanderbilt will not have the worst overall record in the SEC this year.
So just conference record or overall
record? Vanderbilt will not have the worst record in the SEC this year. True or false?
I honestly think I think that's true. They will not. And the team I think is going to have the worst might surprise you.
Arkansas?
Florida. Their schedule is just not. I mean, I think brutal. They might lose two non-conference. They might lose two non-conference games. They might lose. They're probably going to lose to Utah and to Florida State.
They will be the underdog in both of those games.
They'll lose to Tennessee and Georgia. There's 4. And then they'll lose to LSU. That's 5. So I've got them at 5 losses right there. And then, so now I got to say they're going to go undefeated with South Carolina, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, who beat them last year, Missouri, who's not bad.
3 of those games are on the road, by the way.
Yeah. Who's their other West team?
Arkansas.
It's A&M, right?
Arkansas.
No, it's Arkansas. So, I mean, it's going to be tough. I could see Florida going 5-7.
There's a chance that they go worse. There's a chance to go worse than that. Defensively, they're going to be good, and that might help. But, yeah, Vanderbilt's non-conference games, Hawaii, Alabama, A&M, they're at Wake Forest, and for some reason, they're at UNLV. They have Kentucky, Missouri, Georgia. They have Kentucky and Missouri at home, Auburn at home.
Who's at UNLV?
Vanderbilt.
Oh, I thought you meant Florida. I was like, Florida's at UNLV? What?
Vanderbilt's playing 2 road non-conference games. Now, maybe they did that knowing what they were going to do with their stadium, but you schedule these out way in advance. By the way, neither Ole Miss nor State are at Vanderbilt this year, so I guess this doesn't apply. It'll be done. But they've flattened both end zone seating areas in Vanderbilt. They're gone, and they're going to rebuild them. And project looks pretty nice, actually, if the renderings hold true. But anyway, you think Florida? I actually don't disagree with you.
I'm not high on them.
How could you be? How could anybody be?
Yeah.
True or false? An SEC team will lose a non-Power 5 game this season. An SEC team will lose a non-Power 5 game this season. Here they are. Florida's got McNeese and Charlotte. Georgia, we can just skip it, but UAB is their toughest one there.
No.
Kentucky's got Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, and Akron. Missouri's got South Dakota, Middle Tennessee State, and Memphis. There's one that's possible.
That game's at a neutral site, too. It's in Missouri, but it's at a neutral site.
South Carolina's got Furman. Look out. Jacksonville State are there, too, because they have North Carolina and Clemson on the schedule this year.
Clemson, yeah, right.
Tennessee's got Austin Peay, UTSA, and UConn. Mentioned Vanderbilt's already. That's a candidate, probably, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, because it is Vanderbilt.
Alabama, not happening, but Middle Tennessee and USF and Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Arkansas's got Western Carolina, Kent State, BYU, if they count, and FIU.
No, they don't. They're Big 12.
That's right. They're in the Big 12. That does not count anymore.
They don't count anymore.
Auburn's UMass, Samford, and New Mexico State. LSU is Grambling and Georgia State and Army.
Yeah, no.
Mississippi State, you guys know theirs already, but it's not Sela. It's
Sela.
Yeah, it is Sela, right? Yeah.
Sela, Southeast Louisiana, yeah.
Western Michigan, who's projected to lose all of their games this year. And Southern Miss. Ole Miss is Mercer, Tulane, and Louisiana Monroe. And A&M is New Mexico, Louisiana Monroe, and Abilene Christian. Are any of those games a loss for an SEC team this year?
I will say no, but it's interesting to me that the one that you would feel like has the best odds is Ole Miss Tulane. Especially since it's in New Orleans.
What would the second best be?
That's probably the best odd.
Southern Miss, maybe?
No, Missouri, Memphis.
Missouri, Memphis.
Yeah, it would be second best to me. Southern Miss State would probably be third. No, I can't say that because of Vanderbilt. Taking Vanderbilt out of the equation, Southern Miss State would be the third best, I think.
What's the line going to be on that Southern Miss State game, I wonder?
Assuming the seasons play out the way I think they will, then I think State would probably be favored by 10.5. Maybe 12 at most.
Sounds about right. That's going to be an interesting week, I think. Because a lot of State fans are – it's just Southern Miss fans, I think you would agree with this. It's just natural behavior. When you're done with your conference games and you've got a non-con game before your biggest rival, it is natural for your mind to start thinking about Ole Miss if you're a State fan. It's just natural. It's going to happen. And all of the Southern Miss fans out there are going to want blood.
But at the same time, because it's Southern Miss, it's a little bit easier to not overlook it than it would be if it were another team in the Sun Belt.
Louisiana Monroe.
If it was Louisiana Monroe, like Ole Miss is playing, or and I'm not saying Ole Miss is going to overlook Louisiana Monroe. They're going to smack them up and down the field. But the fact that it's Southern Miss, I mean, you have enough people around this program that are just going to say, well, it's Southern Miss. You got to take that seriously.
Yeah. Next one. South Carolina will be the biggest disappointment in 2023 relative to their expectations.
I'm going to say false. It could be Alabama.
Could be. Because they expect title every
year. Their expectations are to win a national title. I don't know what people's expectations for Florida are right this second, but that's a big time candidate for me. And if I'm right about Ole Miss, I mean, if they're a preseason top 25 team and they finish 7-5, they would be in that conversation as well.
We get this message. How many times is Hugh Freeze going to get away with free wins versus New Mexico State? Last season, when New Mexico State beat his Liberty team 49-14.
Did he really?
Yes.
I didn't remember that. All right. Well, there you go.
That was after it became obvious that he wanted the Auburn job, and this team got smoked, and that was a weird deal. I remember, but. Yeah, they got beat 49-14, just were completely non-competitive. I mean, there's the one year that everybody remembers in 2020 where they went 10-1, and that was a really good year, and that was the COVID year. His other 3 years at Liberty, 8-5, 8-5, 8-4.
True, but they made a concerted effort to play better teams, right? I mean, they played Ole Miss in there. They played Arkansas and beat Arkansas in there. I think I'm not gonna take away from Freeze the coach. I'm not. Yeah, he's a good coach.
Yeah. We get this message. Hey, at least State plays them, and they're not scared like Ole Miss. You can believe this or not.
Yeah.
Ole Miss's justification for that, again, you can agree or disagree with it, that we're not doing that today. They don't find it necessary. It's not fear. They don't think it's worth their time. And you can agree with that. You can disagree with that. You can think that's crazy. You call it whatever you want. But their line of thinking is, what's the point? That's what it is. It's not, they might beat us. It's, what's the point? That's what they think. And you could debate that all day. We're not going to do that today. But we still have a few more of these. We'll get to those. This is